She had an interview when Sonny Hostin asked her if there was anything that she'd do different from the Biden administration. And she said, I can't think of anything. I have no regrets. So I think that she has condemned herself and her campaign.
Alan, how would you characterize the campaign at the moment, particularly given that you were the director of the American Constitutional Rights Union? Because some people say the Constitution itself is on the ballot. How would you characterize it at this point?
Well, I would say the Constitution is on the ballot. Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, which is known as the Guarantee Clause, it says that there are two things that the federal government is supposed to guarantee to every state in the union. The first one is a Republican form of government, not Republican Party, but a form of government because we're a constitutional republic. We do have a representative democracy. But the second thing is to guarantee every state from invasion. And when you look at what has happened with this open and porous border, the drug trafficking crisis that has killed 250,000 Americans in just 3.5 years, the human and sex trafficking issue. I live here in the Dallas County area. We're in the top five, the city of Dallas, for sex trafficking. Houston is in the top five also for sex trafficking. And then, of course, the terrorists aspect of it. And this Venezuelan crime gang, Tren de Aragua, who just a couple of days ago murdered a man in public and left his body in the middle of the street right here in Farmers Branch, Texas, which is in Dallas County. So I think that when you look at Kamala Harris, she has almost condemned herself. And there were two instances where she did that. During the CNN interview with Dana Bash, she said that my values have not changed. So I guess who she was in 2019 have not changed based not, considering anything she said. And then just recently on The View, she had an interview when Sonny Hostin asked her if there was anything that she'd do different from the Biden administration. And she said, I can't think of anything. I have no regrets. So I think that she has condemned herself and her campaign, and that's why you see the implosion.
Well, you say the implosion, Alan, but she's still running neck and neck with former President Trump. And in some of the swing states, she's slightly ahead. It's a toss up. One doesn't know. So if she is really that bad, what does it say about your candidate, Donald Trump? What does it say about people's views on what he might do if he gets in a second time around?
Well, I think if things were going so well, you would not call a gathering at the Madison Square Garden a bunch of Nazis, or calling people garbage, fascists, and all things like that. You would be more confident in your position. And if you go
Well,
back,
hang on a minute, Alan. You know the person who
stop.
said that.
You're asking me a
Sorry,
question. You asked me a
Alan. I know. Okay,
question.
go for it.
If you
Go for it.
go
Go
back,
for it.
if you go back and you look at the trends of 2020 and 2016, going into those final weeks, you had President Biden that was ahead by 6 to 8 points. You had former Secretary of State Clinton; she was ahead by 5 or 6 points. When you have Donald Trump, at par, or you're just 1 or 2 percentage points ahead, that really does cause the concern for the Democrat Party and the progressive left because Trump supporters are always underpolled, and I think that's why you see them very nervous.
You say they're very nervous, but don't you have reason to be nervous? Because Donald Trump has said a number of things, including today, saying that we're going to protect women whether they like it or not. Perhaps a misfortunate turn of phrase. And of course, you had the comedian in Madison Square Garden directly referring to an American territory as a floating piece of garbage. And people did laugh at that in the room. Now, you can understand why some Democrats don't like the way the president referred to Trump supporters, but there's going to be a number of people out there saying, what is the worst offense? The way in which a fairly gerontological or a fairly senile president misspoke yet again, or somebody was invited to the stage at Madison Square Garden referring to a group of Americans as garbage.
When you go out to people, folks aren't considering what an insult comedian said when they're going to the grocery store. They're not considering what an insult comedian said when they're going to the gas pump. As I just stated, when you have a violent Venezuelan gang like Tren de Aragua, that's more important to them. When you have 25 to 30,000 Chinese single military age males somewhere in this country, 425,000 criminal illegal immigrants in this country, 30,000 of them rapists and murderers that have been allowed in. I think that's what people are concerned about. No one is going to care about an insult comedian. And let's go back and remember the days of, I don't know, Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Don Rickles. There have always been insult comedians. And so I think that the American people are more so in tune to the issues that are affecting them every single day of their lives.
Well, they might do, but those American people also like freedom. They also want bodily autonomy. They don't want unfettered government overreach. They don't want the Department of Justice to be weaponized, which is something that Donald Trump tried to do. Bill Barr confirmed that, his former attorney general, during his time. And you've got a number of people, including a former chiefs of staff, General Kelly, and others, saying this guy, if he could be, would be a fascist. He has got all the qualities. He admires Hitler. You cannot just dismiss that because they've come from people who served him and who were at his bidding and who are now saying this guy is not fit. Now, there's going to be some Americans who listen to that and in the privacy of the ballot box will say, yeah, I don't want to see this again, this chaos that he brought last time.
Why did General Kelly say that 5 or 6 years ago when it happened? That's my question. And when you talk about General Milley, who's someone that never took responsibility for the debacle in Afghanistan, to include the drone bombing of innocent civilians, I think that hurts their credibility. But let's go back and talk about some of the other things that you have brought up when you talk about freedom and the Department of Justice. We just had the Department of Justice bring about a case against a sovereign state, the state of Virginia, who wanted to make sure that non-citizens did not vote. If you want to talk about weaponizing an agency, we have seen that, a Department of Justice that castigated parents who just want to make sure that their children were getting a proper education as domestic terrorists. Pro-life people that are standing outside of abortion clinics being targeted and having their homes raided at 2 or 3 in the morning and being carted off by armed, police officers and law enforcement officers by way of the Department of Justice. So when you talk about the weaponization of government agencies, that goes all the way back to Barack Obama and what we saw happen with the IRS under Lois Lerner when they went after the constitutional conservative grassroots movement. So let's be honest and fair about that. But again,
but Alan, you say honest and fair, but of course it depends on whose side of the aisle you stand. Because
no, it's
if
not.
you were no, hang
I'm
on, no,
speaking
Alan,
fact.
if
I'm
if
speaking
you were a
fact.
woman,
I am speaking
if you were a
fact. I'm
woman,
speaking
sorry,
truth, and you
Alan,
know,
Alan,
and you
if you
know
were a
that. You're
woman,
not refuting. You're not
Alan,
refuting the points
Alan,
bringing up. You just
Alan,
like them.
no, Alan, if you're a woman in a state in the South of the United States where you've been told you cannot get an abortion after a certain number of weeks, and there are people standing outside the clinic, okay, telling you you should not be doing this or intimidating you, that's interfering with your natural born freedoms as an American citizen. Surely you wouldn't support that, would you?
I don't see where it has a freedom to dismember a baby in the womb. As a matter of fact,
Ah,
but listen, please. I mean, I do this every day. What
yeah.
happened with the Dobbs decision was that the federal government had no constitutional authority whatsoever. So it reverted back down to the states. Now, if you're in a state like Minnesota, where they have Governor Tim Walz as the head of that state, you can dismember a baby in the womb up until the time of birth. And there have been 5 instances of babies being left to die even afterwards. As a matter of fact, the former Democrat governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, once said that we will set it to the side and decide what to do with it. Now, what we're saying is that what we see happen in Minnesota and California, New Mexico, that's okay, but you're trying to force the other states who have said that now we have the ability to make that decision. No, you don't have that ability to make that decision. And even if you look at Europe, I think it is Germany and Italy, they do not have abortion procedures after 12 weeks. I believe it is France and Spain, they don't have abortion procedures after 13 weeks. There in the UK where you live and also the Netherlands, you go up to 26 weeks. What they're talking about here is all the way up to birth, which is infanticide. I don't think that
But
that.
hang on,
And furthermore,
Alan.
when you talk about the rape and
If you
that's
look, Alan,
rising, that's 2 to 3%. I've done the research. That's 2 to 3%. What we're talking about is this abortion on demand, where you're using abortion as a birth control method, and you are destroying life. And look, I'm a Christian. I cannot abide by that.
okay, Alan, if that really is the case, then President Trump would have been much more bold and mentioned this in the same lurid terms in which you have on the campaign trail. And he's
I
not.
can't tell him how to.
He's tried to shy away from it because he knows it's a terrible vote loser with women who want bodily autonomy and who do not want the federal government, either at a national level or at a state level, local government or regional government, telling them what to do, having to
Okay.
leave their state in order to get what they think is a necessary termination.
Well,
This is the kind of thing
I
that
live with
could lose
them.
the Republicans a lot of votes.
I live with a woman, and I have for 35 years, my wife. She agrees with the exact same perspective and points I brought up. I have 2 daughters. Both of them have a son. two grandsons. They believe in the exact same thing. As a matter of fact, when you want to talk about the health of a mother, my youngest grandson was born at 29 weeks. My oldest daughter suffered from gestational hypertension, and he was delivered at 3 pounds, 2.5 ounces. A year ago, October the 12th was his birthday. He is now 23 pounds. And so I believe that we should be talking about what we can do to sustain life instead of cutting life off. If we want to talk about women's reproductive health, let's find cures for ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, cervical cancers, the fibroid tumors, gestational hypertension, gestational diabetes, and also breast cancer. Let's find cures for those things. But to sit here and say that you want me or anyone else to agree with dismembering babies in the womb up until the time of birth, I cannot agree with that. But
But,
that's
Alan,
that's the
your
position
position
of
is not
Kamala Harris.
shared by the position of the vast majority of Americans. You know this for a fact, which is one of the reasons why
Oh, that's
President
not
Trump
true.
has been very careful about how he's expressed his views on abortion at various points in this campaign. The question then is what you're going to do now in the home straight between now and the 5th of November in order to swing over a decisive number of independent voters who look at President Trump, look at who supports him, and think, I cannot go back to that again. In fact, he's doubling down. He's saying, I'm going to be a dictator on day one. I like Putin. I like Kim Jong un. I'm going to end the war in the Ukraine within 24 hours. And people think that he means he's going to allow the Russians to keep what they want of what they want and what they've captured so far. You've got to try and persuade a significant percentage of people who are still not coming over to your side. How are you going to do it?
Well, I think there are a significant amount of people that are coming over. I'm the chairman here in Dallas County. We're seeing that. I think people want to go back to 1.4% inflation, 6% GDP growth. They want to go back to peace in the Middle East. They want to go back to seeing Iran being bankrupt. So we did not hear about Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad. During the time of Donald Trump, Russia did not invade Ukraine. They did so during the Obama-Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration. We did not see all the threats we see from China. We had a secure border, unlike now where we have 10, 12, 11 million illegals that have come across the border. We have seen an incredible increase of crime because of Democrat district attorneys and other activist judges that are releasing these
So,
violent.
so you don't see any increase in crime in any Republican areas. It's about the right to bear arms. Americans feel under threat from their neighbors. They have
Yeah.
guns. They shoot each other. That's what happens.
No, we don't shoot each other. And if you go and you look at this, I will tell you that most of these individuals are not folks that are members of the National Rifle Association, Gun Owners of America, and all of these new laws. Let's just make sure that we abide by the laws that we have. Let's make sure that we have those right and proper background checks. And many times you find out that people are lying on what is called a Form 4473, a background check form, and they are not caught. And that is one of the big problems. That is the big problem that we saw down in Uvalde, Texas, was a person that should have been caught doing the background check, was not, because he was living with his grandfather. His grandfather was a declared felon. So it is not about Americans shooting America, it is criminals. And you cannot punish legal law-abiding citizens by taking away their right to defend themselves. And so you do have violent criminals on the streets. The FBI has come back in September this year and revised the previous 2 years of crime statistics. And we have seen a 4.2% increase in crime instead of a 2.1% decrease.